Alright, we're in! Hey boys and girls. Wait a minute, I gotta do some stuff here. Wardfire here. Anyways, I'm gonna fix audio and stuff. We're playing Year Walk, which is the second game I own on Steam, or I know about, rather, that deals with Swedish folklore. So we're gonna play more of those type of games. And, yeah. So I'm just gonna try to fix the audio and stuffs, and then we're gonna go. So, I have no idea about the audios. It's mostly just music. Just, no background sounds and stuff. So, yeah, we'll have to check that. Anyways, okay, let's go. So, we cannot go into the house, but we can move to the right here. When there's a path leading north, press W or up key to cross it. Actually, what we're going to do first is we're going to look at all these things. We have a map here. So we have the cottage here. And then we have the Swedish names under the English names. So Solsorten, I think. Woods and Box. Vedetorps skog. The translations between Swedish and English are hilarious, by the way. Not hilarious, but yeah. Woods, Vedetorps skog. So actually, the Swedish word skog, that's what means woods. Vedtorp is just like the name of the forest. Woods, Vedtorp skog. Woods, Vedtorp skog. Woods outskirts. Vedtorp skogs utkanter. Plains, Nilssons ägor. So basically there's a guy named Nilsson, and he owns this place. That's what it means in Swedish. Windmill, Nilsson Möllan. Well, something more that Nilsson owns. And lots of other places here we can't get to right now. Maybe I shouldn't have dragged the audio down. I have no idea. Not there's very much audio. Okay, actually I have no idea. Let's just leave it be for now, and I'll fix it next time. Okay, so here we have this encyclopedia. We're gonna read all of this before we start. A journal, where I don't have this, but I saw somewhere that if you watch the credits when you're done, really good, then you will unlock, like, how you unlock, like, the true ending of the game or something like that. So I guess maybe you got the username and password for the journal then. I don't know. There's actually hints and some settings here. Not very much. And then you can quit the game. And there's like no menu or anything. This is just right into. Okay. So I will start reading all the encyclopedia stuff. So we have that. So these are all more Swedish folklore, and actually the Nattravnen, eller Ravnen. You see here, in this game, they have spelled it with a V. If you saw Oknytt, then you know that in that game, this was spelled with an M. But now it's spelled with a V, and it sounds fairly similar when you say it. So there you can see definitely that it is raven, is the word for raven, right? Otherwise, we didn't meet any of these in Oknytt, so lots of new ones. So, but first we're gonna read this down here, so. The Yearwalk Encyclopedia is a collaborative effort between Simogo, which are the developers, and Theodor Almsten, who is the author of all the written content. Theodor Almsten curriculum vitae. Theodor Almsten was born in Stockholm, 1968, but spent most of his youth in Edinburgh, where his mother was born. He graduated from Lunds University in 1992, that's in southern Sweden, and is a doctor of philosophy at the Faculty of Ethnology. His lectures on the manifestations of evil in folklore has been full every term from 1998 and onwards. Theodore has written 3 books on Scandinavian folklore. I've never read any of them. The Crone's Tongue has been translated into 16 languages and received the prestigious Hornet Award in 1999. He has had numerous appearances on Swedish television. I have no idea. Too young, I guess. And on unaired children's short film called The Grimm was partially based on Theodore's research. Alright, so we're going to start here. Yearwalk, årsgång in Swedish. Yearwalk. Yearwalking was at its core a vision quest, with the purpose being to foresee the future. There were very rigid rules concerning the yearwalk, and not adhering to them could prove very dangerous, even fatal. How the practice of yearwalking came to be is shrouded in mystery. but it seems to have been a widespread practice in Sweden until the beginning of the 19th century, and in some rural areas as late as the beginning of the 20th century. The practice was likely over 1,000 years old and most certainly pagan. You know, pagan as in relation to Christianity, presumably. Year walking varied greatly, regionally and even locally. Regionally. And even locally, there might have been differences between one village and the next. All the variations had a couple of elements in common, though. I might have heard something about year walking, but I didn't know nearly as much as what's in here. So, a year walk could not be done on any common day. There were certain days a year when the gate was opened, generally in liaison with important festivals such as May Day, Midsummer's Eve, or Christmas Eve, and most commonly New Year's Eve. A year walker could not partake of any of the food or drinks that were served on these days, a sacrifice of notable significance, since these feasts were some of the rare occasions when food would be plentiful and varied. A year walker had to avoid other people, so they commonly locked themselves in dark rooms and were not allowed to see a fire for the entire day. Perhaps not a vast sacrifice on Midsummer's Eve, but on cold winter days it would be uncomfortable at least, if not hazardous. If the year walker followed these steps, he would leave his dark room at the stroke of midnight. This would be his last chance to cancel the year walk. Once he ventured out, there was no turning back. The church was the final destination for the year walker. On his way, he would typically encounter a number of supernatural creatures, which would pose a threat physically, mentally, and spiritually. If a year walker made it to the cemetery, he would walk around the church in an intricate pattern. This would open the year walker's eyes to the future, but it would also lure out the church grim. So you can see right here that Christianity came, but priests, wanting to convert the country, came at earliest was like year 1000 or somewhere around that. So, yeah, it's been around for a long time, but apparently what happened was that Christianity kind of fused with the supernaturalities that already existed, the Swedish culture we had wasn't totally, smoothed over or eradicated, or what I should call it, from Christianity, but it was like mixed, and such. So, after having completed the year walk, the walker would see visions that could manifest themselves in different manners. When the year walker left the cemetery, he might, for instance, see a sober procession of dancers dressed in their finest church clothes. These would be the people that would die the following year. The recurring theme is, of course, the year walker who meets his own ghost on the road. Another story tells of how the walker would see newly dug graves. Love played a great part too, so a walker would typically meet wedding processions or even attend weddings yet to come. One testimony from the late 19th century tells of a mental patient named Martin Nilsson, who describes his visions as otherworldly experiences. Before I saw what happened next years, I lived among the stars. I lived there for many lifetimes, it seemed. What do I care for next year? Time is already ended. Today the practice seems to be almost entirely forgotten. Yes, it is. There might be smaller practices, but just year walking is, no, that's pretty forgotten. Okay, next thing is skogsrået. And apparently, it's completely wonderful, I never knew. There is a translation for this in English. The huldra. I can't even say it in English. Skogsrået. She is one of the more famous Swedish folklore creatures, together with Näcken, for example. And she wasn't an Oknytt, which was fascinating, but here she is. And she has sisters, or whatever you want to call it. There's Skogsrået, which she lives in the woods because skog. Then there's Sjörået, I think she lives in lakes and stuff. And Gruvrået, who lives in mines. And they're kind of similar. Anyways, the Huldra is known to have played part in Norse mythology, but she's likely of an even older origin from when man lived off the forest rather than the fields. The Huldra was the guardian of the forest. She tended to the trees, plants, and animals. A single large tree in a grove surrounded by smaller trees was often considered to be the Huldra's home, or even the Huldra herself. In most stories, she presents herself as a beautiful young woman. This was, however, not her real appearance. Very few saw the Huldra's true face, and even fewer lived to speak of it. She was often described as a lonely and woe-filled creature. Her relationship with humans was very complex. Yes. Yes, it was. She could enthrall a man with her beautiful song and lure him deeper and deeper into the forest, where she either wedded or killed him. The man kissed by the Huldra became apathetic and slow. And she will also, I don't know what wedded exactly means, but yeah, she sometimes had sex basically. And I'll read everything, then I'll take my extra info here. According to some accounts, the Huldra was a positive force. If a hunter was kind to the Huldra, she might blow her breath down the barrel of his rifle, which would bless his hunt. Colliers considered her their friend, as she kept fires from spreading from their charcoal kiln. She also helped those who willingly offered their blood to her, but this was dangerous, as the Huldra might drink the giver dry. The Huldra was thus capable of doing both good and bad deeds. It was very hard to predict whether she would help or harm, since she played by rules known only to her. And that is exactly what I like to say, that it goes for most of the creatures in Swedish folklore. Like, they play by their own rules. They are their own logic. So, they will help or they will harm. You can basically not know, because humans, I'm guessing, can basically not understand their logic. What I was going to say is, I don't know if you know what colliers and charcoal kilns are, but people used to, mostly men, used to have these, they built these charcoal kiln, I can't even explain what it is. It looks like triangle tents, kind of, but bigger, like little huts or something. And they basically, I think they burnt wood in there, and they made coal, basically. And they would do that for months on end, and live out in the forest, and away from their wife and their family and children. Just like fishermen could be away a long time, or woodworkers could be away a long time from their family. And I'm also going to say that Skogsrået is often portrayed with that she has her back is what's the word? She has a hole in her back. It looks like not empty, but hollow tree, basically, her back. And she's usually depicted with long hair, so you don't see it. But if you see her back, if you see the hole in her back, some versions say that part of your soul will be stolen, or go with her, and you will also become apathetic and slow if you get home, basically. And a lot of men have been, gone crazy. They've seen her, and then they wander around the forest until they die looking for her. So, yeah. And then Rebecca Heston! Brook Horse! Sweden is a country that has a lot of lakes, rivers, streams, and brooks, and Swedish folklore is filled with strange creatures residing in the dark waters, like Näcken in Oknytt. The Brook Horse was a pale horse who lived in creeks or lakes, luring children to ride on his back. The Brook Horse's spine grew for every rider that it lured on top of his back, so it could take as many kids as he wanted. When the Brook Horse was satisfied, it leapt into the water, whereupon the children drowned. The Brook Horse had a lot in common with the Nix, which is Näcken, a handsome young fiddler who lured young girls down to the water, and was naked, and according to some, they were one and the same. It's likely that the Brook Horse was made up to keep children from playing too close to the water. One of the more usual descriptions comes from a story told in the north of Dalarna, which is not a county, I don't know, is that, but like a part of Sweden. A young man is on his way home from his work at a charcoal kiln, so he works at making charcoal in the woods. He decides to wash up in the nearby creek. The man finds a strange stone formed like a little child in the water. He picks it up. The man notices he's not alone. He's being watched by a horse walking on two legs. That would be pretty scary. The horse stretches out a human hand to the man, who gets frightened and runs home to a shack he shares with his fellow workers. Okay, so they don't really live in the charcoal kilns, but that's where they work all day. And they're gone for months on it. He tells the tale to his comrades, who laugh at him and call him a drunken fool. He shows them the stone that now looks quite ordinary. The man curses and goes to bed. When the workers wake up the following morning, they find the man dead in his bed, his lungs filled with water and the stone nowhere to be seen. The Brook Horse was almost always closely associated with death. not always in a negative way. For instance, in the sad folk tale Little Nils, the Brook Horse is the one who finally leads Little Nils' soul home, and thus ends his long series of misfortunes. So yeah, this episode is basically going to be me reading, because I feel like it's good having this before we start. So it's like 3 left, so. Mylingen! Yes! The myling. Infanticide was a fairly common crime in Sweden during the 19th century and earlier. The 2 most common motives were that there was no room for another mouth to feed, or that the child had been conceived outside of wedlock. The souls of these unfortunate children became mylings. Typically, the mylings were murdered by their mothers, often unmarried women who had been left to fend for themselves. The myling would commonly be left in the woods to die, or they would have been drowned by their mothers in brooks or bogs. Some mylings died at the hands of angel makers. The angel maker would typically be paid by the child's poor mother to find a decent home for the infant. When the mother left, the infant was murdered. The most common way for the myling to haunt was through a horrible wailing sound. The myling might take the form of a ball of light, similar to those of an earbloss, Scandinavian will-o'-the-wisp. We saw those in Oknytt. And lead the curious traveler astray. Sometimes they would cry for their mothers to breastfeed them, which would apparently set them free. So yeah, if you breastfeed the myling of your own child, they're going to be free and go, to whatever they go to. If I'm right here. One story from Bergslagen, which is a part of Sweden where I think they have a lot of mines, and where there's some kind of water comes from that they sell in bottles, which is kind of weird to do in Sweden, but yeah. Tells of an old farmer on his way home through the forest. He's approached by a small child who follows him and says, Grandfather, I'm so hungry." The old man tries to ignore it, but the child keeps on nagging, so finally the old man loses patience. "If you can find someone to feed you, then feed, but you won't get any milk from me." Yeah, I think in Swedish, the child... I've seen a Swedish version of this story, and basically in Swedish, the child uses a word. He doesn't say, "I'm hungry," he says, "I want to breastfeed," basically, but with a Swedish word. So it's more detailed, precise, that is breastfeeding. He wants. The child seems pleased and leaves. When the old man comes home, he finds his daughter lying dead on the floor, bleeding from her chest. The child he met was the spirit of his murdered grandson, who indeed went and breastfed from his mother. Now she's dead. A person who helped the mylings find their way to the other side was often left with a gift. According to some sources, the myling would be taken in by other supernatural creatures such as Hobbs, or if they had been drowned, the Brook Horse. I don't even know what Hobbs is. Hobbs are 2 left. Okay, Nattravnen, we met in Oknytt, the night raven. Carrion birds were deeply linked with misfortune and death in Scandinavian folklore. The night raven, or Nattravnen, was certainly no exception. The night raven was described as a large bird with a sharp beak, sometimes with holes in its wings. If a person gazed through these holes, he would become ill. Other stories told of a giant skeleton bird that could never satisfy his hunger. Travelers foolish enough to be out at night risked being devoured by the terrible bird, especially at festival days such as Christmas or New Year's Eve. The night raven has also been described as an ordinary raven, but if it landed on a house, someone would die shortly with a terrible fever. Overall, the night raven was strongly associated with disease. When farmers sent their children out to collect wild birds' eggs, they had to be careful that they did not pick the eggs of the night raven. Those eggs were considered deadly, but if the child was unsure, he could knock on the egg 3 times and say, "Out with the evil spirit." If the egg belonged to the night raven, it would turn black. The night raven not only infested the eggs, it also possessed birds, preferably carrion birds. According to some sources, the night raven was the spirit of an evil, greedy man who had not been buried properly. The greed manifested itself in the night raven's fondness for shiny objects. And in Oknytt, we also got the version where night ravens are, some kind of dead souls that cannot find rest in different ways. And the last one is Kyrkogrimmen, and this one is clearly associated with Christianity and churches, so the Church Grim. Of all the creation in Swedish folklore, the Church Grim was doubtlessly the most complex and certainly the most feared. Little is known of it, since it was considered bad luck to even speak about it. The Church Grim's appearance varied, which could possibly be attributed to the nature of the Church Grim's origin. When a church was built in medieval times, an animal was sometimes buried alive under the floors, most commonly goats, since these were comparatively cheap. There have also been stories of criminals being buried alive as punishment. And this was done with with the animals, because it was thought that this would bring good luck to the building. And there's not only Sweden had this tradition, a lot of other cultures also had this superstition that it would bring good luck to bury a creature or something living when you build a bigger, more important house. And the soul of this creature became, it actually says here basically, but yeah, it became kyrkogrimmen, and would guard the church basically. I also heard a version where you can bury a horse in the graveyard, and then you get a black three-legged horse, which sometimes headless, sometimes not. I don't remember the name, but I think that's more Danish. But yeah, if you see that one, you're basically pretty screwed. So like, please don't ever see a three-legged black horse with or without its head. Doesn't matter. It's bad. Anyways, in other versions, the criminal's heart was cut out and placed inside an animal carcass that was sacrificed. The heart was central in many of the myths surrounding the Grimm. Stories from the south of Sweden told that if you could touch the Church Grimm's heart, you could stare into the eye of creation. The Church Grimm guarded the church against thieves and grave robbers, but because of it, even honest folks avoided the church at night. Some stories say that if you were unlucky enough to be the last one to die during the year, you would serve the Church Grimm the following year. There are other stories that suggest that the Church Grimm was not a guardian at all, but rather a sort of parasite that was drawn to the energy of the church. While there, it fed on people's hopes, dreams, and fears. A recent and controversial theory suggests that the Church Grimm was closely related to a nameless Bronze Age deity. So, now we read all of that, but I think it was, I still think it is kind of interesting or important to know beforehand. So, we will play the prologue here too. So we will go forth here. I played the beginning of this game before, so I know where to go. Okay, so here's like a puzzle thingy, which we will do later when we actually have a code. There we go. Here's like a hole. Here's a road. I think we want to go this way. I think we want to go back. Yeah, we want to go back here. We want to go this way. It's snowing! Yay! It's snowy Sweden. I think we want to go this way. Yeah, we want to go this way. We want to go here because we want to go to the mill here. Here to Nilsson's. Hello. There you are. I've been waiting for you all day. You should not go outside without a hat on a cold day like this. You will freeze your ears off. And I'm quite fond of the person those ears belong to. Did anyone see you come in here? Now you're being silly. You know that I'm not ashamed of you. It's not that. I like you very much. But you and I come from different worlds. He's waiting for my answer. I said I'd give it to him next year. And this is the last day of this year. Now you're being unfair. This isn't any easier for me. I don't like it when you're like this. Calm down. Year walking? I hope you're joking. You do remember what happened to my cousin, don't you? Promise me you won't do anything foolish. We're not supposed to know what happens in the future. You should hurry home to your cottage and get some rest. It's getting dark soon. Hurry home to your cottage. You should probably go. You really should hurry home now. Okay, so you don't want to talk to me anymore? Cool. Apparently that's our like fiance or something. So we're gonna go year walking because she's kind of together with some other guy. Should you find yourself lost, clues can be found in the hints menu. Yes. I will be needing a hints menu. Oh, wrong way. La 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 la. Yeah, we ain't getting this much snow in Stockholm. I'm just telling you. Thanks to climate change. We ain't getting this much snow in Stockholm, I can tell you that. Okay, here's our cottage. We're gonna go year walking. I meet all kinds of crazy creatures. Oh yeah, I have to do this. I forgot. click on all of these. Year. Can you guess what it's gonna say? I think you can. Year. Walk. Oh, I missed one. Sorry. That's what we get. Year walk. Now then. It is the middle of the night. Awesome. Now we're just gonna go year walking, but we're gonna continue next time. So this first episode was basically the prologue. It was a lot of reading, stuff I kind of feel that we need beforehand. So now we're on part 1. We need before. And you see, now we can get like everywhere. So, information that we needed beforehand. So, we're going to start with the actual game more next time. So I hope you enjoyed, learning there. It was a lot more info in this game, in a way, than Oknytt. But we're going to meet some more new Swedish folklore creatures. I hope you're looking forward to that, because I totally am. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.